All right, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, wait, what's this? Okay, anyway, so today I want to talk about you get to choose how you show up and you get to choose how you respond to things and how and your perspective on things. All of that is your choice. What happens to you isn't necessarily your choice, although you do have some impact over it, but how you choose to respond to it, how you choose to look at it, and what you choose to do next, that's all on you. So I'm going to give a little bit of a story time about what's been going on in my life and what I've kind of done with that and how I'm looking at things. This is like a real time story. Like this is like stuff that's been happening like in the last like like from now it's like the last month. Well, really like before then, but the part of the story is like the last month. Okay, so I'm just going to cut straight to it. I was having some boy problems. So, or a boy problem. So, long story short, it's not even about him. He's just like a small piece of the story. But a few months ago, back in October, I decided I came to God. I was crying one day and I just felt so defeated just in life. And if you guys watch my podcast episodes from Own the Journey, I have a podcast called Own the Journey. Feel free to check it out. If you guys watch those episodes, actually, they're not out yet. By the time this is going to come out like today, those episodes are not out yet. I should probably go ahead and do that. But anyway, on the show, I'm kind of chronicling, whatever. The things that are happening, during that time. And I just felt really, really defeated. I just felt like I had been spinning my wheels, really trying to make things happen, and they just weren't happening. And the things that I was really passionate about, I felt like were my calling, I was scared to pursue, so I wasn't pursuing them. And I felt like God was just telling me, like, hey, girl, you got to do what I told you. And it was scary because the things he was telling me to do, I didn't really know how. I was scared. I wasn't familiar with them. It was just a lot. And so one day, came to God. I felt super defeated. And I was crying and I was just like, God, like, lead my life. I was like, I don't have the answers clearly. So I'm coming to you. Please just lead me. Tell me what to do because I don't know what to do. And I might get a little emotional. Oh my gosh. That was a tough day. Oh my God. I didn't have some stuff. My period must be coming on soon. I did not expect myself to get teary out over that. But anyway. And so, my period's definitely coming on soon because it hasn't come on this month. And I'm not, no, it's coming. But anyway, TMI. So, and if I didn't mention this already, this is going to be a bit of a story time. So all that happens. And for me, I didn't really know what it meant to like let God lead me. I didn't have a clear idea in my head on what that looked like. I just knew I was just internally surrendering, right? And so for me, it meant like following like my gut. I always felt like your gut, your instinct, that inner voice, that's like the voice of God in you. And so I just knew to follow that. And I felt like if I followed that, it would take me to the next place and so on and so forth. And so I did that and it led to a series of events. One of these events led me to go to an event where I met someone. That person then invited me somewhere. And then when I got to the place that I was invited to, I ended up meeting a man. And he and I dated for, we dated for about 3 months or so. And I'm 32 years old. Like, I've dated guys. But this felt different. I'm going to explain why. So, and it's important you have that context. I'm, in total submission. Well, maybe not total. But I'm working on my total submission to God at this point. And he just kind of drops this man in my lap. I was not really, I think as a woman, I personally don't think you should ever be looking for a man. But I do think as a woman, you have certain seasons where you're more findable than not. And I was not in my findable season. I was very focused. I was like, the only reason I even went to this event is because the person who invited me, I met professionally. Like, everything I was doing was very intentional. It was not really, and even any man that I'm very intentional when I date, period. But any man that I dated, it would have to literally be like worth my time because I was just very focused. And so met this guy, we dated. And it was great. He actually had very similar, he's very similar career ambition. He is into media and creativity and all that good stuff, like me. And so a lot of times we could talk about different things or share ideas, or he would be doing something or I would be doing something, or I would know about, AI or whatever, and something he was interested in. It was very, purposes complemented each other very well. And he was also on a similar pursuit where he was just really focused on his purpose. And so we started dating, and he actually he's basically the conversation I had with God like 2 months prior to meeting him. He had this conversation maybe like a year and a half ago, 2 years, maybe like a year and a half ago. And so he was further along on his walk. But he ended up becoming a really great like spiritual leader for me. And if you've ever dated, for me, it was the first time I'd ever dated someone where I felt spiritually led. And I ain't gonna lie, y'all, that hits. It hits. And I think that's what made this connection feel so much different. So we dated, we had similar passions, and I felt like I grew spiritually, actually just from dating him. We would do Bible study together. We would kind of share ideas about the Bible, what we had read together. He would give us chapters and we would do them together. He would pray with me during his prayers. He would pray for himself and for me and for the relationship. And I mean, I just felt very spiritually led. And I think okay, I'll get to that in a second. But I think that added to the gravity of things. Everything was going well. We shared similar values, all that good stuff. Went on several dates. After about 2 months, we got into a relationship, and it was great. And then a week later, this man broke up with me. Mind you, I'm 32. This man's 33. We're grown. Oh, yeah, in our 30s, we had a week-long relationship. If anybody ever asked, that never happened. I mean, it happened, but like, no, it means it was like 7 days. It wasn't even a full 7 days. I think it was like 6 days. But anyway, a week later, he broke up with me, and I was blindsided. I was like, who does that? Oh, I forgot to tell you too. Forgot to mention this part. Also, he was abstinent. And right prior to meeting him, maybe like a month before I met him. So yeah, I met him in December. In November, I was like, I really just don't agree with sex before marriage. Like, I just felt like, you ask God to send you this man, and then he sends you this man, and then you go off and do the devil's work with him. It just didn't feel right to me. And I'm not judging anybody who does it or has done it. I've done it before. Well, I'm going to take this off Twitter. I mean, I'll take that off. But I'm not judging anybody, but I'm just saying the more I think about it, the more I just can't get with it. And I met him, and then he told me that he decided he wanted to be abstinent as well. And what was interesting is he started having that realization in November as well. So we both had this realization in November. We did not know each other. Then we met in December. Another detail too, I'll add, I don't know if I should add this or not, because I would never say who it was, like not on TikTok anyway. But he told me he felt our meeting was divine, and I kind of felt there were a few divine elements too. I think he was more passionate about that part than I was, but I did think it was interesting that he was kind of like just dropped on my path, and the way I met him was because I was being obedient. Also too, that's the thing too, my word for 2026 is obedience, and it's just being obedient to God. But anyway, so and then the fact that he was so God-fearing when I did meet him, and I had just kind of submitted myself to God, I did have some elements of that, but he was very adamant that this felt very divine to him. He told me a few things as to why he felt it was divine, but he didn't tell me like all the reasons or whatever. So yeah, so that was that. And it just felt like I said, it felt very grounded. Like there were never like fireworks head over heels, but that was a good thing. It felt very grounded. Like when I thought about the man I wanted and I saw him, I'm like, oh, I think that's the same person. Like it just felt very, very good. And so 2 months went by. We're dating. We got into a relationship. Actually, it wasn't even a full 2 months. It was like 7 weeks. But anyway, we got into a relationship. Everything was good. And then we went out on another date. So like a week into our relationship, we had gone out, right? And long story short, he broke up with me a week after asking me to be his girlfriend. So I'm like blindsided. I'm like, what? Like, huh? And he was just like basically saying he doesn't think he's ready and he's afraid and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, nigga, what? You brought us out here. If you don't want to do this or you're afraid, like, why did you call me? Like, I'm so confused, really hurt, and really just blindsided because I was like wide open, It was brand new. And I just felt so confident. And I think I'm a good judge. Like, I don't really get like boy crazy, you know what I mean? Like, I maintain like a groundedness, but for this one, I was just so like, I didn't see it coming. Like, I just really did not see it coming. So that was that. Then a week later, so okay, so that happened. That was when he broke up with me. That was the week before Valentine's Day. So a few days after he broke up with me, and then which is like maybe 4 or 5 days before Valentine's Day, or maybe like 5 or I don't know. It's like maybe like 5 days before Valentine's Day, and then like 2 days after he broke up with me, he's like, "Yeah, let's do Valentine's Day together. I've been thinking, and I want to do it." And I'm like, okay. I said yes. I probably shouldn't have said yes. I shouldn't have said yes. But I felt like I knew he had been through some things, and I felt like at that time I still saw myself as his partner, and I felt like I just needed to talk some sense into him and to kind of like, I felt like he was letting maybe like fear or some personal things or some things that had happened in his past. Well, I know for a fact he was letting things that had happened in his past like control him. And so I'm like, okay. So I went out with him on Valentine's Day. I shouldn't have did that, but I did. And he gave me this big grand speech about, how he's sorry and he made a mistake and he realized that he was just letting fear control him and he really wants this and he's ready and yada, 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 yada. And I'm like, okay. Well, no, not okay. But I'm like, let me process this. Because at this point, I had already kind of mentally come to the conclusion that I'm just going to move on. And also, too, I just saw how flip-floppy his, like, temperament was. Like, 1 week, you asked me to be your girlfriend. The next week, you break up with me. And then the week after, you want me back. So, literally, like, it's so flip-floppy. And so, I was just like, okay, let me just process what you said. And so we went out, like maybe like 3 or 4 more times. And I was just kind of noticing some things I didn't like. I felt like he had this very like active pursuit, this vigor on Valentine's Day, but I didn't really see it it was 3 dates after. The 3 dates after, I really wasn't seeing it anymore. It was like he was still showing up, but to me, it gave like bare minimum. It was like, we'll go on a date, like 1 date a week. I just didn't see any like that was missing, right? And there were a couple other things that I just didn't sit right with me, and I just wasn't really liking. I was kind of like, I don't know, like I just and so I thought about just ending it then. And I said, but no, he is a good man. He has good qualities. Oh, and also, so I forgot to mention, I noticed my nervous system was never at peace when I was with him. And I felt like maybe it was because part of me just didn't feel safe with him. Part of me didn't know if he was going to hit me upside the head again. Like, part like the rupture that had occurred, part of me just hadn't fully recovered from that. And looking back on it, if I'm being honest, I needed some reassurance. And I'm not that kind of a person who needs like reassurance and stuff like that. But I think in that situation I did, and I was just kind of like, Simone, A, why are you even with the man that you're experiencing these emotions with? And B, like, girl, if you're feeling like this, then this isn't right. But again, he's a good guy, and so, or he's a lot of good. Well, no, he is a good guy. He just has problems. Well, we all okay. Anyway, so I could see the good qualities in him. So I was like, I wasn't gonna. I remember he asked me, like on another date. I told him I would get back to him and let him know, and I didn't. So then he followed up like, don't forget to let me know, when you're free so we can go out. And so I told him, because I was debating if I was going to have this conversation or not. And so I went ahead and told him, I was like, hey, this is how I'm feeling. So I feel like, I'm not going into all the details about all the things I was feeling and that I said to him, but I was just like, I'm seeing some things and I'm not really happy with it. And yeah, I'm just kind of like, he was like, no, and I understand. He was like, I'm serious about this. I'm serious about you. I'm not sure about you. Like, I take this seriously. I want to do this. Thank you for letting me know how you feel. Basically said all the right things. So I'm like, okay, if he's, okay. Well, okay. At this point we had not gotten back together. I had agreed to keep seeing him, but we were not in a relationship. And part of me just wasn't comfortable, like really settling into him because I didn't feel like that rupture had really been repaired. And so we went on and then he said, okay, let's talk more about this on our when I see you. I said, okay. So he came to get me that weekend. We went out on a date. And the whole day, like leading up to it, I just felt uneasy because part of me questioned if I should even be going on this date. I just wasn't. It just wasn't. Like it was. And but again, he has good qualities. I'm just like, I don't know. But I'm like, I felt like he was. I respected what we had enough to at least tell him how I felt and give him an opportunity to fix it. So we're going on a date. And mind you, during this time, shortly before, so we had always talked about like God and stuff like that, but during this time we're like, we had been reading the Bible. I think this particular date we actually didn't read it, but like the last like 2 dates we had like read the Bible together. And like he would text me or like call me and be like, okay, we're gonna read Genesis, whatever, and then I would show up and we would talk about it. And so we went on the date, and I had kind of pulled back already, and I think he could sense that. And I did see him leaning in and kind of stepping up a little bit more, but it just like wasn't enough. Like, I mean, it was cute and I appreciated it, but it just, I don't know. So no, I do know it just wasn't enough. And so we went out, did our thing, and then towards the end of the evening, I noticed he still hasn't brought up the conversation. And so he came to get me around like maybe like 6:30 or so. And by this time it's like midnight or close to midnight. So he's had ample time to bring it up. He still hasn't brought it up. So finally I bring it up. But I have an attitude now because I'm like, why do I have to be the one to lead this conversation? And then I kind of start going on. Basically, I repeat, not repeat, but like I reference what I said. And long story short, he says, you know what? I think I just don't have capacity for this. I'm like, huh? And he goes and, I don't think anybody was going to know who I'm talking about, but just in case y'all figure it out, I don't want to say too much. But basically, he was just detailing that he has some emotion. He hit an emotional wall. He has there's a gap between how he wants to show up and how he does show up. And that's what I said too. I said, you're not consistent. So things you say, things you do are not quite the same. But he does do some good stuff, like the Bible, praying together. And I heard the prayers. Like, the man would pray for me. He prayed for him. He prayed for our relationship. Like, I can tell there's something there, but other things just weren't right. And so he talks about how, like, he's trying. He tries, but he just realizes that he just doesn't. He's just not there. And I could tell he got a little. I could he shed a tear. He shed a few tears. So I felt he was genuine, but I think what bothered me was that, like, you gave me this big grand speech on Valentine's Day. I gave you a chance, and then I'm frustrated because I don't like how you're showing up. I tell you about it, and then you tell me you don't have capacity. He acknowledged that the things that I was wanting were reasonable. He just felt like he just couldn't do them for me or for anyone. And he was, talking about how he was trying, and like I said, he's been through certain things that he thought he had healed from. I thought he had healed from it too. I always say, do not date somebody that's broken or that's not healed. That person's not healed. Leave them alone. But I really didn't see the signs in the beginning. I didn't know he wasn't healed. And he said he didn't either. And I believe him. I don't think he would want to waste my time or his time. Again, like, he wasn't having sex, so there's nothing like that. It was just, but it was just still disappointing. It's still disappointing because you feel like you wasted your time, and then it's like you get a glimpse of something, you see something that you really like, and it's just like, damn, it didn't work out. But the whole purpose of me even sharing this story is because I really want to bring home the point that we get to choose how we look at things, and we get to choose how we show up once we walk away from them. So I'm a big advocate of not letting a situation, romantic or otherwise, I call it dirtying you up. But basically, I don't want to ever vibrate at a lower frequency after an event than I did before. I feel like that robs you of your power. If someone does something to me, I'm not going to let what that person did or how that situation was handled determine who I am and how I move forward. And so it's really interesting too that this happened because on the date, so I knew going into this date, I knew it was going to be a make or break thing, because I was kind of already mentally heading out. Like I had changed his name in my phone. Like his name was no longer his name. I had changed his name to his phone number, so I wouldn't see his name anymore. Like that's something women do. Like a lot of times we will start to, I don't even think we even realize it until after that, but we'll start to kind of like disassociate and leave before formally announcing the exit. So just like different things like that. But anyway, so I knew walking into this conversation, it would be a make or break. What I did not know was that he would like flip it around on me. That I didn't know. And especially considering how a few days before this, he had assured me that he was very serious about me. He wanted this, he was in this. And then, a couple weeks before that, he begged for me back. But then a week before that, he was like, and so anyway, so I knew this was going to be a make or break date. Contemplate if I should even be going. And I knew that the way we were was not going to work for me. But again, I didn't expect him to flip it on me, but he did. But okay, cool. It happens. So anyway, yes, but so on the date, actually, I remember it was storming. We're on our way to this restaurant. It's actually a really nice place. And not nice like fancy, but nice like it was a vibe. But anyway, so we're on the way there, and it's stormy, and there's like a flicker of lightning that goes through, and I'm like, I made a comment about, whenever it lightens like that, I always just think to myself like, even lightning is a silver lining. A silver lining in the sky is like, a glimmer of hope. So even in a storm, even if it's storm, it's pouring, it's raining, there's still a silver lining. It's always how I choose to look at it. And I can tell he really liked that, but I really mean that though. And that's how this is too. So essentially, I was really disappointed just because, I saw so much potential there, and it didn't last. It was only like 3 months. It wasn't even that long, which normally I wouldn't even care. It was only 3 months. I might be a little disappointed, but whatever. But like I actually like cried about this, like because it felt so abrupt, and I felt like for the level of depth we had gone through. Yeah, and then for him to it was just disappointing. And so I remember my nervous system was really, really bad. I could just feel like this anxious, like this anxiety in the pit of my stomach. And I was like, okay, I can't be doing this. And so I'm a firm believer that crying is spiritual. People don't really talk about it, but I think crying is a form of exorcism, and a form of cleansing. It's a baptism. Think about when you get baptized, you cleanse yourself in water. When you cry, you're cleansing yourself. And when people are exercised, they make all these convulsions and do all that happens when we can do a real nasty good like in the gutter cry. That's the same thing you do. And so that's what I did. I buckled down to my knees, like, and I just kind of fell that way. I hunched over and I just cried, honey. And I just like the carpet was so wet from my tears, my drool, and my snot. I mean, it was a nasty cry, but I got it out. I remember just saying to myself, I want this out of me. I want this out of me. I even did like this. That's exorcism. But I just didn't want that spirit in me anymore. And I just got it out. And I already knew I needed to fast because, again, when you fast, you're purging those emotions. And I knew I didn't want this in me. Like, I didn't want to show up places sad or be a lesser version or a lower vibrating version of myself for my husband. Like, I wasn't going to give. So, so I already knew to fast. At this point, I was probably about 12 hours into my fast. So I was in a fasted state. I'm still fasted. This what I'm talking about just happened yesterday, actually. So the breakup, because we never actually got back together. So like the second breakup took place between Saturday and Monday. This crying episode was on Tuesday, and today is Wednesday. So very like right. Okay, so all of that happens. What happened after that? Oh yeah. So then I went and I took a walk. And I love walking. It's so relaxing. I was actually considering walking to the gym. That was when I left the house. I was going to walk to the gym. I said, I just want to walk. Walking is so therapeutic. So I just walked and walked and walked and walked and walked and walked. And I didn't walk that long because I had somewhere to go, but I walked, I think it was like 4.3 miles, which I like walking, so that's not like that long to me, but it was a nice walk and it was beautiful outside. And I know what, y'all, I felt so much better. Like I felt so good after that. And I was like, you know what? I got this man out my spirit. Like, hallelujah. You know, I felt so good after that. But then I thought about too what I said about how you get to choose how you look at things. You get to choose how you show up and how you respond to things. And I made the decision to see the good in this. And the reason why I say this was, although it did not work out, he raised my standard in a lot of ways. So I had been contemplating being abstinent prior to meeting him. And I was never like celibate or abstinent, but I would go long periods of time without having sex because there was just nobody I wanted to have sex with. That's very different than making like a proclamation and being convicted and not doing something. And so I had thought about it, but I felt like it was not realistic for me as a woman to to do that, because I felt like a lot of men would like be like, no, especially if you're not a virgin. So I am a virgin, so y'all know. But we on TikTok and Instagram and we on social media, so I'm a virgin. But anyway, for the non-virgins out there, I didn't think I'm just playing. I'm just playing. But yeah, I didn't think it would be realistic to have that sort of a standard. And so I was just like, well, once I met him, I realized no, that is first of all, when I met him, I realized there are men out there who are on the same page. Second of all, what I realized too is that it doesn't matter if it's realistic or not. For me, if I'm submitting myself to God, I have to give him control in every area of my life, because they all overlap anyway. And with my words obedience, he's already told me what to do. So if I'm going to him for help and I'm going to him and say, I want you to control this, I want you to lead me, you to guide me, and he's giving you the blueprint for what to do for that to happen, you got to do it. Like, unless you just don't want to do it his way. But to me, it's really that black and white. You're either going to do it his way or you're not. And so, and again, I'm not judging anybody. None of us are perfect. But for me, that I became much more convicted in that. And I think God did use him as a catalyst for me to realize that. Also, too, not long before meeting him, maybe like a month and a half before meeting him, I really asked God to just take over my life. And he kind of just dropped this man in my path. And the way I even met him was by following certain steps God told me to take. And when I met him, I felt like he brought me closer to I wouldn't say he brought me closer to God, but he definitely strengthened my spiritual life. There was something else I was going to say too. Also, another thing as well is he made me realize that I want God in my romantic relationship. So when he and I would pray together and do Bible studies together, and we both would talk to each other about our own separate walks, but we sort of had a walk with him together too. I want God to be the third party in my relationship. And I've never done Bible study with a significant other. I haven't. And he told me he hadn't either, and it was his idea. And that's another thing too. I feel like he was a spiritual. I feel like I did feel very spiritually led by him, and I want my husband to do that too. And not only when it comes to the abstinence thing, if I'm being honest, I don't want to date a man who isn't abstinent, because I want him to be fully submitted to the Holy Spirit, because that's the only way I'm going to trust him to lead me. And if he's having sex and he's not married, he's not fully submitted. And again, like, I'm not judging you. Like, your walk is yours. And it's so personal, but he's not the right fit for me. If I feel like I'm more submitted than he is, I can't follow him. I can't follow somebody that I don't feel like is better at this than me. And I shouldn't say better at this than me, but yeah, I only wanted like the kind of, I think I always knew what I wanted, but I think dating him made me get more specific about it. And it helped me to realize certain spiritual components I wanted in my man that I just wasn't really present of before. Another thing I'll say is I think him dating me helped expose some of his emotional gaps and emotional blocks. And again, I'm not like, there's, more to his background that I'm just not going to say on here, because that's really not the point of this. And I think, I know me dating him helped expose me to my spiritual gaps. I feel like we were really great mirrors for each other. So although it didn't work out, and although, part of me was very angry that he would take me all the way out here and then abandon ship, and he's so wishy-washy. One minute he wants something, he doesn't. It's two things. The first thing is I never felt like at any point he was looking me in my eyes and lying to me. I always felt like whenever he was speaking, he meant what he was saying as he was saying it. And it made me really want to pray for him, because if he's that wishy-washy with me based on what he actually says, I know internally he's very wishy-washy too. There is like an unsteadiness that he himself has to deal with. And I know that can't be easy. I don't think he takes pleasure in disappointing people. Because he's really not a bad person. He's honestly not. He's just not fit to be in a relationship. And we all have our issues or our challenges, I should say, but his just do not work for a relationship. And he acknowledged that himself. I think he actually realized that sooner than I did, because he knows his thoughts, he knows things, and he acknowledged that there was a gap between, and these were his words, the way he wanted to show up and the way he could show up. And I think to see that shortcoming, then see another person bear witness to it, I know it has to be challenging. So I still pray for the man. But I say all this to say is I get to choose how I look at this and how I move forward. So for me, it's not letting that anxiety, anger, bitterness, just whatever, not letting it take up space in my spirit, because I'm so much better than that. And then it's also too looking at this kind of like the good that came from this. I do feel like I've gotten more spiritually grounded since knowing him, and I think he definitely played a role in that. So for him, he was a mirror for me, in that regard. And I truly don't think he was aware of some of his emotional gaps until meeting me. Now, it's a shame that, I had to be collateral damage, but, I got something out of it, and I guess that's just the cost. And we've all hurt people. I mean, I don't think he intentionally tried to hurt me, but I know I've hurt people not intentionally, but sometimes it just don't work out, and a person just hurt because they wanted it to. That is life, just life. But yeah, I just wanted to share that. You get to choose how you show up. You get to choose how you move forward. Oh, also, I forgot to mention too, all these cool things have been happening. So I shot this vertical. Well, I didn't shoot it. That's not true. Didn't shoot it. A filmmaker shot it, but my really good friend, she wrote a script, came up with the concept, produced it, reached out to different people, and she cast me in it, which I thought was so cool. I appreciate that. And it's doing really well. She literally just put it out last night. And then this morning it was so beautiful. I woke up this morning, I prayed, I read, I journaled, get a text message from her saying how well it's doing. I had a character, and I kind of did some other things with the like I had some. If you act, then you know that you kind of have to make the character your own, no matter how big or how small. And my ideas really resonated with the audience, so it was so cool. And then I have a client, so I run a social media marketing agency, and one of my clients has some really cool stuff coming up. I gave them some ideas; they love them. They're going to do them. They're going to elevate them and me. Like, there's a lot to pour into. And I feel like, that was unfortunate, but I get to pour into myself, and I get to move forward and see, I get to choose how I want to proceed next and how I want to look back on this. And so, yeah, that's the whole point of this. Is I just want to say, sometimes things happen in life that are unfortunate, but you got to keep pushing. You have to find a way to not let that thing define you or determine who you are, how you're going to be showing up the next time, and try to find the good in the experience. And I think that same type of attitude will carry you very far in a lot of things. I think it's done me a lot of good too. So that's what I wanted to share. I hope this was helpful. Again, this is not meant to make that man look bad. I didn't share really a ton about him because I don't want anybody to try to figure out who I'm talking about. I mean, I guess my friends will probably know because they know who I've been dating the last 3 months. Sorry. But they already knew the story anyway before it was on TikTok. But anyway, or YouTube or wherever I'm going to put this thing. But anyway, but yeah, I hope that was helpful. Let me know what you guys think, and I will talk to you later.